without further ado, we got Jake the Snake Plummer with us.
Right on. Thanks for having me, guys. That's nice to see some little highlights there, especially from my man Todd Smith, man, one of the best players I've ever played with, best teammates and everything.
You know, being a Bronco fan for so long, like the eras kind of get blurred. I forgot how you and Rod were the connection. You know, because I think of Rod and Elway. You know, Rod and Elway, and then like Rod played for a long time. So yeah, that was cool to see. So, you know, first and foremost, how are you? How's your mental health? Just how are you in life these days?
I'm doing really good, man. You know, hasn't been without some challenges, and you know, becoming really self-aware of me, and getting back to really finding out who I am and what I'm all about, and again being open to, you know, be guided down the path I'm on. And I've been able to surround myself with some really phenomenal humans and some really good people, and you know, they're always there for me as I continue to branch out and even meet more like-minded individuals. And the further I get away from the game, it still matters, because it's what I did to get me to where I'm at now. And it does play a part in my whole upbringing and my life and my evolution. But, you know, I am far away from the game at the moment. I've watched a little bit, but I really don't pay attention much anymore. Other than I still have a lot of knowledge. And I'm enjoying, you know, living in Boulder and getting into doing some fun stuff with nature and medicine and mushrooms and raising kids.
Oh yeah.
Trying to like fill my life and fill my cup every day as best I can, and then also to share that and walk in the light to give people a little boost if I can. And just enjoy life. I mean, I'm 48, so I feel I'm not even like very far down the road so far. You know, like I got a long ways to go. So what's ahead is really exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So I like to start at the beginning. You know, my first question, just like, you know, first and foremost, I don't know if you know, but Denver still loves you, man. You know, just telling people about the interview, everyone's like, "Oh, Jake was the best. He was the best." You know, I'm just like, yeah, you know, I don't think anybody had one bad thing to say, even just some football stuff. Nobody. So, but
you know, time can be a very, very interesting thing. You know, if you're
absolutely.
There were some of them that maybe weren't quite as receptive when I was in the tail end of my career there. But yeah, there's much love in this city. I'm welcomed and treated really well by a lot of fans. The fans are really true blue. They love it. They're in it, and it's a great thing to go out and be appreciated without the memory of like throwing a pick on fourth down. The Raiders yesterday, where they may want to come up and punch me, but now they forgot about that. They just think of all the good that I brought.
Absolutely.
Well, tell us how you started playing ball. Like, who were the quarterbacks you looked up to? You know, just, you know, take us back a little bit.
I'm kind of tripping right now. If I scoot back far enough, it looks like I'm almost in the room with you guys.
Oh, nice. There we go.
You guys are about the same size now. I'm like,
that's pretty cool. Nice.
Catch up shoulder. All right, sorry, I got a little distracted. Growing up, man, football was huge. Sports were big in my family. I had two older brothers, so I was playing everything. And from a young age, very young age, was taught, you know, if you touch it, you catch it. You know, my brothers were into throwing the ball, Nerf ball, playing wiffle ball, handball, ping pong, hacky sack, tennis, golf, whatever, man. We were all over the place. So sports were big. Football was just something that I loved to do at recess for a long time until I started playing organized football, begging my mom until she finally allowed me to play, because I told her, I'm going to be wearing a helmet and shoulder pads and pads, Mom. Not at recess. Like when I'm playing already at recess, I don't have any of that on, and we're still hitting each other and tackling.
That is true. That's true.
She let me play, and you know, I grew up watching. You know, Walter Payton was my favorite player probably of all time. Just watching him, an undersized guy with a lot of just tough, hard-willed, smaller, but didn't let that stop him. I loved watching him. Quarterbacks that I loved to watch. You know, my oldest brother was a big Dan Marino fan, so I got to watch him a lot growing up. I was a huge Steve Grogan fan of all things. Just
wow.
a Patriots shirt. There it wasn't even a Patriots shirt. It was like a J.C. Penney red, white, blue, number 14, one of those jerseys you wear as a kid in the 70s.
Yeah.
And so I ended up like, I'm a Patriots fan. And
that was before it was cool.
Yeah, right. And Steve Grogan wore a neck roll, man. Like,
nice.
What quarterback would never wear?
I love those. Not
Nice.
gonna lie.
But yeah, I enjoyed watching a lot of teams play. My favorite quarterbacks growing up, I mean, I loved Joe Montana. Randall Cunningham, as I got older, Randall was one of my all-time favorite quarterbacks to watch play. There was a whole slew of them out there, but growing up, Joe Montana was really the guy.
Yeah.
I felt like, he wasn't this big 6'5" prototypical gunslinger, but he knew how to win. And so I was really a big fan of his, and just a fan of the game, really, and all games, all basketball, baseball, football. Never got into hockey much, but, sports were big in my upbringing.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Growing up in Boise, what was your first job?
Oh, boy. I'll go back a long ways here. I actually had a little business card a friend of ours made up. And, my brothers were working in the summer doing some stuff, mowing lawns and whatever. And I was too young. I wasn't big enough to even push a lawnmower yet or strong enough. And I had a friend of ours in the family. He made these little business cards, and it said, I was Jason. My real name is Jason. So I started going by Jake in the third grade.
Interesting.
There were four other Jasons in the classroom, and the teacher was like, "We can't have a fifth Jason."
Wow.
Pay him. So I said I'd gone by Jake before, and so on my little business card it said Jason, friend at large. So he felt like you can't work and mow the yard, but you could be somebody's friend. So
that's hilarious.
But then as I got older, summers we just help around the house, mow the yard. As far as full-time first job, I never really had like a full-time first job, but I would help my brothers a lot in the summer when they would go sticker lumber, actually, where you take the lumber pile that's all stacked together, and then you put little pieces of wood in between it so that they can dry. The lumber could dry. So I was the guy who would lay the little sticks in between while they were stacking the lumber. And that was the first time I really worked a lot in the summer. I'd do other odd jobs like cleaning windows for friends, or, hey, you want my garden weeded? Weed the garden, or mow a yard, or whatever.
Keeps you in shape too.
Yeah, I was pretty lucky in the summers. I spent a lot of time in Coeur d'Alene at my dad's, on my bike, going down to the beach, playing hoops and running around.
Nice.
And I could work when I wanted to, and still have some fun as a kid.
Nice. What about your first car?
First car. We had a good friend of the family, and his name was Robert, and he had this car that he was getting rid of, and it was it was a 74 AMC Hornet.
Whoa. Nice.
It was 3 on the tree, so you could shift from first to second and then up to third on the steering column.
Wow.
And it didn't have a door when I got it, a driver's side door, and it needed to have the radiator the radiator replaced. And so I went to a junkyard and got both of those and did it myself. And the door didn't match. It wasn't quite the same yellow color, but my friends laughed, and it was a junker, man. We paid $50, gave him $50 and he gave it to us. But it got me places, until it finally broke down. And my buddies were laughing at me one day, and one of my buddies' dads came out, and he heard they were laughing at me about my car, and he looked at me, he's like, "Hey, Jake, don't sweat it, man. Rubber wheels are better than rubber heels."
Hey, there you go.
Right.
Exactly.
Your wheels, these guys would be walking. So they shut up real quick.
Did you always want to be a quarterback? Is that where you saw yourself even playing younger? Did you play any other positions?
I loved wide receiver. I loved to catch the ball, and I wanted to be a running back also. So the youngster, that was one of my dreams, was to be a running back. And I actually wrote a little report, when I was in the second or third grade, that I was a running back in the NFL for the Raiders.
Oh,
and,
wow.
My dream began. That's when the dream began of I want to play in the NFL. And a lot of it was my brothers were huge sports fans, and that's what we did. We watched a lot of football, and they were into it. And I don't think their dreams were to play in the NFL, but I saw it and thought, man, this would be fun. And so that was just a childhood dream. But meanwhile, I was going to take any league I could get into because I love playing sports and competing.
Sure.
But yeah, that was what I first wanted to do. And I even played some receiver in high school as a freshman or as a sophomore. And I also loved to play. I loved playing DB and like free safety in junior high. That was so much fun.
Right.
I loved hitting, coming up and hitting people and playing the ball in the air. And like, I really liked defense. It was a lot of fun, but
my man Foe here was a DB. That's what he played. So
yeah, I didn't get a chance to do it in high school because I was quarterback number one, and number two wasn't quite capable if I went down. So they let me stay on the offensive side, which was okay. I didn't mind. If I threw an interception, I'd get my chance to go
smoke him.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly.
I'd go nail pretty good because I was pissed.
Right. Exactly. Did you have a team growing up? Like, were you a fan of a team? Because I know you grew up in Boise. So, who was Boise rooting for? You know,
on Sundays we got Denver. Actually, to be honest, a lot of it was regional. So
yeah, I think I heard that. I think I knew that. So
Seahawks or the Broncos, and so I wasn't necessarily a Broncos fan growing up. I liked John Elway. He was fun to watch. And then, I ended up being a Raiders fan in the second grade when they won the Super Bowl because I won a $2 bet. So I was like, yeah, cool. I'll root for the Raiders. And then I loved Marcus Allen. You talk about a running back that ran so smooth and was just like, man, his style was so awesome. So I loved kind of watching him. And then if I had to say I would root for any team, it was probably I always like to watch the 49ers because of Joe Montana and Ray Rice and those guys.
So you kind of rooted for your favorite players, most of all. Yeah.
I didn't have some diehard team. I wasn't diehard about some team really. I had just a fan of the game and more of the players.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely. So when you were in college, your senior year, when you played Nebraska and you beat Nebraska, the big scary Nebraska, what do you think that did for you as far as like confidence, A, trajectory, B, like how did that, where did that take you?
Yeah, that was a culmination of a lot of things because the year prior we played in Lincoln and they whooped our asses 75-28.
Old Nebraska. But, man.
I'll reiterate and say the score again, 75-28. Yeah. We got 28 points on them. We scored 28 points as an offense when they were trying to stop us.
Right.
So I knew offensively, like I wasn't scared of them, but defensively we weren't quite there yet. Mm-hmm. And we had guys in the offseason, most notably Derek Rogers, who played 1 year at ASU, went on to the league and had a decent career. But he was different. He was driven to make it. And his speed in practice and his effort in practice got contagious for the defense. And before you know it, our defense became one of the strengths of our team, along with our offense, and then effort all around to the special teams. And so we went into that year pretty confident in our abilities and the work we put in that offseason. And, we barely beat Washington the first game. I think we played North Texas the next game. And then here comes the Huskers, highly ranked. And everybody was, last year they got their asses whooped. And we actually, to think back on that, I believe that there was about, I don't know how many guys were on that team, maybe let's say 90 on the ASU roster. Of those 90, I think the solid 70 of us really thought we could win that game. But then outside of those 70, I don't even know if there were many people coaching us or any people in the building or if our fans that even thought we had a chance. But we knew we could whoop their ass. We had a feeling going into that this is going to be different.
Right.
And the night before that game, we asked the coaches to leave and leave the meeting room, and we had a players only meeting, and it got really hot and heated in there. A lot of guys that never talked spoke up about what it felt like last year and that this isn't going to happen again.
Right.
And the whole thing was really geared towards a lot of other things besides that game and us. Frank Cush Stadium was dedicated that night to legendary coach Frank Cush.
Wow.
Another distraction away from us. And so I was pretty pissed about that. Before the game, driving to the stadium, there was people, a sea of red crossing the bridge on Rio Salado there on Rural. And it's like, what's going on here? Where's our fans?
Yeah.
Seriously.
No one is believing us. We're on. And I remember telling the bus, like, it's all us guys. No one else thinks we can do this. And
Right.
we just banded together, and it was a really special night. Guys didn't want to leave that building without winning, and we put it on them 19-0, and the rest was history. The trajectory there was, now we were fourth in the country. What Coach Snyder told me when I was coming out of Capitol High in Boise, Idaho, that I was going to be a key integral part to building a national championship team was now we were in position to control our own destiny. And it put me in the running for the Heisman.
That's
and
incredible.
As the season went, that became, I was ranked for the Heisman Trophy. Like, holy shit, what is going on? It just was a magical year. It was only guided by the fact that me and a bunch of guys banded together and just wanted to do our best and make sure that we, put it out there every single day, and we worked hard for it. We also had a lot of fun too, but it was a really magical season, and one that put ASU on the map a little bit. And that's why I went there, is because I've never heard much about ASU, and I wanted to leave ASU and have had left an indelible impression on the fans there. And we sure enough pulled that off in '96 when we almost pulled it out. We almost won the national.
Crazy times.
Yeah,
that's amazing. I
always thought it was pretty interesting when anybody, gets drafted to the same state or city they went to college in, So what was it like, what was your time in Arizona like with the Cardinals? Because, we're Bronco fans, but you spent more time as a Cardinal than a Bronco. So, and I know at the time the team wasn't the best. We'll just say that. So, how do you look back on your time as a Cardinal?
Yeah, it was really exciting. I mean, to go from ASU straight into the Cardinals, not have to move into a new city. At first, I was like, I want to get out of here. I wanted to go see something new, be in a different city, and maybe a bigger city, a little more flavor than Phoenix was offering. But after that transition, I was grateful for it. It was an easy move into the next level. And I started as a rookie halfway through the year. I don't know how many other teams that would have happened for. And I got a chance to show those guys, those vets there, where my heart was and what I was planning when I was here. And that was to get after it every day. And let's try to be the best we can be. And I remember, that 98 season, first, getting my first action as a rookie in Veterans Stadium on the 2-yard line coming out. They threw me in there, and, I get into the huddle, and the team was lifeless, and I could feel it. So I got in the huddle and looked at the guys and was like, hey, who's ready to take this motherfucker 98 yards?
Nice.
They all perked up and said, oh, wait a second. And sure enough, we took it 98 yards and scored. And from then on, they felt like, wow, okay, this kid, he believes enough, or we should all believe. And so it started to shift a little bit. We won more games towards the end of that year. And then in 98 was a magical season for the Cardinals. There was a vote. There was a vote on the ballot to pass a tax to build a stadium for the Arizona Cardinals to stay in town. And that vote passed. We won 4 games at the end of the year in fine style, come from behind victories, last minute field goals, and all this stuff to claim a spot in the playoffs. I restructured my contract that year. And it was a huge, huge year. And we won our first playoff game for the Cardinals in 50 years when we beat the Dallas Cowboys. So
that's crazy.
It was an organization that, again, I had a chance to go to and try to shift things and change that mentality of, maybe we're not that good or we're not supposed to be here, to no, if we're going to do this, let's try to be the winners. Let's try to make it right.
Absolutely.
It was a huge season, and we let go of a lot of great players after that year to free agency. And I had a few tough years there, 4 years of not winning many games because of just wrong decisions in management and injuries and just whatever else it is that the Cardinals are still struggling to get over.
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
that's a few glimpses here and there, but it just seems to be an organization
Same thing.
It's hard for them to get consistent.
I mean, as a teenager at the time, I didn't even know anything about the Cardinals until you were the quarterback. That's when they started kind of becoming on my radar.
Yeah, it really was the first. It was the first playoff appearance in 15 years when we went to the playoffs in '98. So, and how we did that was we won the last 4 games in fine style, and even the last one, it was we had no time on the clock, kicked a field goal, and we're to the playoffs. You know, it was magic. Again, another real pivotal time for that organization, along with the Sun Devils in Sun Devil Stadium, where I played all college and all of my pros for the Cardinals for 6 years in that beautiful stadium. So, yeah, I tried my best. I did all I could there, but when the time to part came, it was exciting. My last game as a Cardinal was here in Denver. In fact, on January, I think it was January 2nd, right after the new year, and the place was packed, even though the Broncos were in the playoffs. It's new to me to see a stadium packed like that, even though the game didn't matter. Come out, and at the end of that game, I ran off the field, and they knew I was going to be a free agent, and the fans were chanting, "We want Jake. We want Jake," and I'm like, yeah, I want some of this too.
That was actually gonna be my next question. Is like, how did you feel when you found out you were coming to Denver, especially like post Elway, all that stuff?
Yeah, it was a decision. I was a free agent. I went to the Chicago Bears also to visit them as they were looking in search for a quarterback to come in and lead them. And oddly enough, they made it to the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman a couple years later.
Right.
And we, we're building something here in Denver. And in, my third season here, 2005, we almost made it. So yeah,
still a heartbreaker.
It wasn't a hard decision. What it came down to, and what my agent at the time, Dave Dunn, helped me decide was, what are you going? What city are you going to try to accomplish what your goal is? And Chicago was more alluring because, I love good food and I love blues and good music. And I'm like, wow, living in a city like Chicago, I'd never lived in a metropolis like that, a big, big city. So that was what was like the one thing that was differentiating it. And when I removed that, it came down to my chances to win a Super Bowl are much greater here with the Denver Broncos. Right. So that's why I made the decision. I even took a little less money to come here. And, I didn't look back. It was time to get to work when I got here. And I loved the guys on this team and the coaches and the opportunity it presented. And, it was fun to be on a franchise that understood what it took to win.
Right. That's amazing. Do you have a favorite Bronco memory?
Ooh, man. A lot. There were some good ones. Maybe we're not on the field. They were on plane rides.
Hey, we'd love to hear those too. It's okay.
With Coach Shanahan, a couple funny moments when I was injured and just different things like that. But really playing for the Broncos was really fun. Getting to play in front of a packed house every game for sure, where it really mattered. The fans were in it. As far as even if they were booing you after the first two series going 3 and out,
that's us.
What the hell's wrong? Right. They still were there for you and they were rooting for you. I think one of the biggest moments was when I first got here and I was walking into the building, and just looking around, and here's John Elway here and John Elway there. Right. There's Super Bowl trophies and a picture of John there. And it was just like, all right, I'm walking into something like I can handle this. Yeah. I'm not Elway. I don't want to be John Elway. I'm myself, and I'm going to embody that and be the best person I can be. And that was a big moment for me to just know that hey, I could live under that shadow or just create my own moments here. And that's really what I try to do, is just be the best I could be and not try to live up to John Elway's.
Right. Yeah, definitapdefinitely.
Whoever is going to do that? Who? Nobody. 16 years here. 2 Super Bowls,
right?
How many? 4 appearances, or whatever. Like,
it's insane.
He could run for governor. He could run for governor of Colorado and win easily.
Exactly. So how could I ever try to live up to that? Right. I wasn't trying to. I was trying to get my trophy and get out, and this was my best shot. And so, getting here was a lot of fun, and playing here there was some fun games, definitely, and great teammates.
Incredible. Okay, so let's talk handball. Because from what I read, you are one bad man when it comes to handball. So are we talking league rules handball? Or are we talking prison handball rules? What are we talking?
Well, I just like to play the game. There's a rule book, but I've never read it. My game would be really good in prison. I don't want to play there because you play with some guys and they want to call hinder or I couldn't see. And it's like, of course you couldn't. If you're playing doubles, there's 4 of us on the court. At some point, you're going to lose the ball. But to me, that's the challenge. I lose it, and I got to try to pick it back up and not make an excuse that it crossed between you or between me and the ball, you know? And so I just love to play the game. It's super fun. It was a great sport to cross train with off season when I was playing football. Growing up as a youngster, that was one other sport we played a lot of. And it helped enhance a lot of my skills, my hand-eye coordination, my lateral quickness, my spatial awareness, my mental toughness. Today when I play, I really have a great time just going into it, you know, usually medicated with cannabis because it's a great anti-inflammatory and I can get focused on the ball. And I just love to play with a few guys and have a great time chasing the ball around and still be able to move really, move quickly and get down low and like push my body to not be an old, decrepit NFL quarterback, but to be a 48-year-old that still runs around like I was in my 30s. And, you know, that's my ambition is to never age, you know, try to keep limber, loose and moving and do what it takes to continue down that path. Now I may slow down and I know I will at some point, but still be able to play the game at a high level at a slower speed also. And that takes mastery of the game. And I'm by no means anywhere near ranked anywhere as a great player. But I'm a good ambassador for the game. I love to play the game. I can step into the court with anybody. The pros whip my ass, but I can still get in there and return the ball and have fun.
Right.
Right. Do you still play with your brother?
Yeah, once in a while. My brother Eric lives up in Sandpoint. My other brother, I have two brothers. My brother Brett is in Boise, and we haven't played in a while, but I got to play with Eric this during Thanksgiving when I was up north. I went up there and played doubles with him. And
that's cool.
I played a ton with him when I retired. I mean, that was my transitional game, my way to still compete, have camaraderie. We'd go play down in Sandpoint at the SWAC, the little club there, and we'd drink some beers and go into the court and hang out and rib and jibe on each other and have a good time. So it made the transition out of the game a lot easier to do that and then still have an outlet for competing for sure.
Nice. I wanted to ask a little bit of a tougher question, not crazy tough, but because you know, like when your run with the Broncos ended, I was like kind of fresh out of high school. I definitely wasn't invested in like, you know, the business side of the NFL the way I am now as like an adult, you know. So when, you know, I think it was it Cutler that came in for him
after? Yeah.
So when that whole thing was happening, was it a mutual, like, was it a decision of yours that you kind of were ready to stop playing? Was it the Broncos mostly, you know, just that whole situation? Like, how did that go down?
Yeah, there was a lot led up to that. You know, we lost the AFC Championship game in 2005, and a lot of that got put on to me, obviously, and that's what happens when you're a quarterback. I was okay with that. You know, I could have played better. I threw a pick in the first half that was that, you know, obviously it was a pick in the first half.
Right.
And for me, I threw a lot of picks in the first half, but I never let them be the determining point of the game that made us lose. Like, we got 2 quarters left. We just never got it going that day. And for some reason, you know, that was the decision by the brass to draft a quarterback. And, you know, obviously it was about time to get someone to come in, someone to have, you know, learn the game, to get groomed behind me and be ready to take over if this was my last year or whatever. I've never had alluded to being ready to retire or anything like that. Although in 2005, I was ready to retire. If we'd have won the Super Bowl, I was going to take off and be done.
Yeah.
That was my dream. I didn't want to win 5 and play for 20 years like some people. I just wanted one. One and get out before my body was beat down, before my spirit was downtrodden and beat to death by never being good enough and never being able to fulfill, you know, a genius maniacal coach's wishes at that position. And I love Coach Shanahan, and we've buried all our hatchets. He reaches out to me once in a while. I check on him. You know, he gave me a true gift of 4 years to show the NFL world, like, yeah, I can play ball, you know. You're not a pocket passer. Yeah, I am. I can be, but I can also run out of the pocket too. So you can't coach running out of the pocket, but you can teach somebody to be in the pocket. And, you know, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from that staff and those coaches. And You know, the losing Coach Kubiak as an OC was tough because he was definitely a mediator between me and Shanahan, two different types of personalities. Right. That would get after it sometimes because we both were very competitive. And when Coobs left, things shifted a little bit. And I was entering my 10th season being asked to do stuff that I was doing when I was a rookie to learn the game, and I'd learned the game. And so there was a little discord there as to time spent and what I was being, you know, expected to do, when I felt like it was what my time was being wasted to go in and learn things I already knew. And, right. You know, I wasn't going to be like Peyton Manning, where, you know, my life was spent in that building from 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock. I had things I like to do outside of the game, especially in the off. So that was a little bit of a discord with Coach, with Mike. And then when they drafted Jay, it was like, I kind of was shocked at first. And then I thought, well, you know, that's okay. This is probably gonna be my last year anyway. And they need to have somebody there in case, you know, to groom for me to leave and have a guy there. And little did I know that the papers there were 2 papers at the time. Was it the Denver Post
and the Rocky Mountain News? Yeah,
Rocky Mountain News. And so run by the same organization, but having 2 different viewpoints. So one was pro Jake and one was no Jake.
Right.
Would write articles that were not based on fact, but more based on numbers. There was a lot of interesting media that worked for those papers that would write articles that were their own opinions or the opinions of others. Not the opinions of my teammates. As far as me being a leader or being capable of taking them to the next level, they were ready to jump on the train that, oh, he lost in the AFC Championship game, he's not good enough now, let's get someone else. And so that started. And, you know, once that fire is lit, you know, it gets fanned with every incompletion, with every interception, with every time that we don't go kick someone's ass 38-5.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever. And at the time we went and played Kansas City, we were 7-3, and we weren't playing great, but we were still the same team that was a Super Bowl championship caliber team the year before.
Right.
And the drafting of Cutler was interesting as a first round pick, when, you know, maybe we could have served ourselves better to get a more impactful player that would have actually helped us maybe be 8-2 at that point, you know, or 9, you know, better record than we had. But Kansas City whooped our ass. They ran the ball for like 280 yards, and I got benched.
That was priest.
And that was the end of it for me. You know, that was like, oh, wow, okay, this has happened. And my teammates they got in line and marched like soldiers. You know, you don't go up to the coach and say, what the fuck are you doing, Shanny? This kid isn't ready. Instead, they try to embrace it and be like, all right, well, we'll do our best to get behind this guy because that's where we're at. And it was tough for me. I'd never been benched. I'd never had anything taken away like that. I wasn't the greatest teammate for about a week. Spent a lot of time in the hot tub, not going to meetings, and practice was like, leave me alone. Don't talk to me, coach. Get away from me. Sometimes not in that kind of a tone. But then I realized, like, yeah, this is still my team. These are my guys. I got to be ready. And I found that I could even be a leader just from the sideline. And I got a chance to come in against San Francisco, the last game of the year. The crowd went crazy. That felt really good. Mike Bell took a ball like almost all the way to the end zone. He made it to like the 3-yard line, and like the first dude there to pick him up was me, because I was hyped, man. I was back in the game, and it was like, okay, good, let's go. We're going to win this game and make the playoffs. And I still got one more chance to go through the playoffs and make it to the Super Bowl. But back then, you know, Jay got a concussion. When I went in, that was why I went in, is Jay got a concussion. And then he went in in halftime, did his little protocol thing, came out, and they put him back in the game.
Horrible back then.
Yeah. And then that season ended with a loss. We didn't make the playoffs. And then really the nail in the coffin was rest in peace, Darren Williams getting shot downtown. That was really hard.
That still haunts the city to this day.
It was. It was really the final, like, yeah, I'm done playing this game. This is it. This is over. I can't. That I could have been down there with those guys, you know, and just the thought of that and the whole thing, it was like, it's time to move on. It's time to let go. And as I was feeling it in my body, as my spirit was really like down on, you know, not life, but just like, God, what more can I do? It was time to retire. And so I made the decision, and that was it.
So speaking of your transition from professional football player to the wellness space, how was that for you? And I mean, that's a journey that you're still on. So can you tell us about that a little bit?
Yeah, retiring from the league and being a little bit beat up, and then, spending a few years, realizing how your body shifts and changes. And then before my insurance coverage ran out, which a lot of people don't know, we get 5 years of COBRA coverage, and then we're on our own. I had both hips operated on to reattach my labrums and to get myself, the ability to hopefully never have to have a hip replacement. Right. I want to be me. I want to be a 100% me. And so that was a big moment of, reflection and deep dive into, God, why did this game, was this a good idea? Like,
right, yeah.
And then CTE talk was huge around then. How just prior to that had taken his life and shot himself in the chest so his brain could be researched. And a lot of deep thoughts were coming in. And then, that was when cannabis got legalized here in Colorado. And I used it as a medicine to get through rehab and the pain and those thoughts. And I still use it today once in a while, for the anti-inflammatory properties, and occasionally just to get focused onto something.
Sure.
I'm distracted very easily. I see too much stuff from my vision on the field, and just being an athlete, I see everything. So sometimes it's nice to hone my focus in and get into doing something like art or in the yard working or doing whatever. So my first little bit into that was with Charlotte's Web and some other former players sharing our stories of transition to help bring light to the mothers that were fighting for the right to give this hemp oil, which was classified the same as marijuana, but didn't cause a psychotropic high. Right. It's bringing relief to their children and helping them with these drastic seizure disorders. So us joining in on that and helping bring light to that was very empowering. Yeah. And I realized, like, the general public is misled on a lot of things, and being able to be a voice for that, to shake up the status quo, was really powerful. And now I'm stepping into the last few years into fungi, functional mushrooms, which are fully legal. There's no illegalities around the mushrooms I'm growing in Fort Lupton, and we put in the bottles and the bars and the capsules for umbo. They've been legal for eternity. It's just psilocybin. It's one fungi that they have put on the same level as heroin, cocaine.
That's so crazy. Yeah.
And the craziest thing is they're using psilocybin in treatment of extreme alcoholism, to cure alcoholism or help people that are alcoholics face that and come out and never drink again. So it's weird.
A lot of hypocrisy.
It's illegal federally, but we're actually possibly going to be able to help eradicate one of the biggest addictions in our country, alcoholism, with the illicit drug. I call them, it's a fungi, it's an organism, it's medicine. And I'm so happy to be in front of this, not in front of it, but, definitely one of the many brave, courageous visionaries out there to say, hey, this is something that's going to help us as humans. Let's open our minds up to this. Let's stop going to the doctor and staying sick. Let's look at other ways to be healthy, to optimally live and face, what's next, and face it together as one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, I got one more question and then we'll get you out of here. I don't want to monopolize too much of your time. How do we fix the current Broncos? What are your thoughts on the current Broncos? I don't know how much you follow the team, but I'm sure you can't walk down the street without hearing about it. So do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah. It's tough to see them struggle. They bring in good coaches. They got good players. I don't know what it is. Mr. Bolin had such an impact on that organization, and his philosophies and the way he treated his employees, the way he treated us, the respect that he gave to everyone involved. It's hard to replace somebody like that as the main focal point of an organization. And really, 300 wins in 30 years says it all, right? The guy put together a team that knew how to do it. Why are they struggling now? it's hard to say. It's finding the right personnel, and then it's also the patience involved to build that and bring it together and take young players and teach them how to play the game and be patient with their development and understand that today's athlete coming out of college is a little bit different. And,
right.
Having the right coaches to do that. Was Hackett the wrong coach? No. This year, he wasn't that great. There's a lot of injuries on the O-line. As a quarterback, you can't play efficiently if you don't have a solid, cohesive unit in front of you.
100%.
Definitely. The answer, I don't know. Is Russell a great quarterback? Hell yeah, he's an amazing quarterback.
Right.
What I don't know is how he works amongst his peers. I don't know how he is as let's say the number 2 person in that entire organization, because the owner is number 1. He's number 2 because he's coming back next year, but the head coach is on fire.
That's true. Yeah.
Is he the guy you need? Is he transcending the locker room? Is he the guy that's bringing those guys together to want to be better, to work harder, to understand, with Russell, we got a chance? I don't know. I'm not around enough. I don't know how he works and relates with his teammates. I know that the only thing that got me through all my tough times and everybody that was riding with me at the highest times were my teammates.
Right.
And I knew that the third string defensive tackle, whether he was going to be cut after the last preseason game or not, I knew that he was important for us to build a team that was capable of winning a championship.
Yep.
So what did I do? I made sure that I knew who this kid was, where he was from. Hey, do you need anything, man? Are you doing all right? You seem to be struggling. Can I help you? That's how I did it. And I wasn't taught that. I wasn't coached that. Actually, I was coached that a little bit by Jeep Christ in Arizona, one of my favorite coaches, who was like, to be the guy in front of this, you got to know your teammates. You got to let them know that you care about them no matter what, because quarterback's always the focus.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to be put on that pedestal. It's your fault when we lose. And it's when you win, you get a lot of the praise. But we all know that it's everybody around me that made me who I was. So is Russell that guy? I don't know. I can only just from a distance see how things work and maybe have a little bit of maybe he's not.
Right.
I don't know. But I don't want to say he's not the right guy, because that's a horrible thing to put out there. Sure. But you got to have those guys wanting to fight their asses off for you.
Right.
And how do you do that? You're in it with them. You're in it with them. Yeah, you're at the defensive dinner on Thursday night, hanging out with those guys, even though you're tired as hell and you want to go home.
Yeah, definitely.
You're on the back of the plane having a drink with the DBs and talking smack, playing cards. Why? Because you're going to need to lean on them at some point.
Right.
And you want them to look at you as a peer, not as oh my God, he's too high above us. Even
yeah.
And so you have to do that. And then, bringing talent together and building up that talent and working your ass off in the off season. We worked out together in the off season, the Broncos. We all came together when it was time to come to work out, man. We all came together and all the guys were there. We didn't have our gurus here and our guy here and our cryogenic therapist here and our nutritionist here. We were all together, man. And that's what Bolt built for us, is stay together. And that's how you build a cohesive unit that can fight through a tough couple game loss to come out of it. And I hope they bounce back. I really enjoy it when the team's doing well here. It's fun to watch, but I guess I could say leadership.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Hopefully that works itself out.
Could have saved a lot of words by just saying leadership.
No, you're good. We appreciate it.
And it's got to be leadership that is electrifying or is tangible, and people can feel that.
Right.
That it means something to you, because when the fans, as John Elway told me when I got here, if you play your ass off and you play your ass off every down, no matter what the score, these fans will respect you forever. And he was right, because 100%. They saw what was coming out of me was I want to win, and I want to win. Sorry, fans, it wasn't for you. My teammates.
For sure.
And that's who I wanted to win for, was my guys.
And they saw that
benefit. But it was my dudes that I wanted to win for. So the fans will see that. And you got to have those kind of leaders. And I think the team has lacked that.
And that's why they still love you to this day.
Thanks for the love.
Yeah, of course. Jake, just let people know where they can find you on social media and find your products and, your businesses.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Snakes Takes. That was my old podcast I used to run. So I don't do a ton of stuff on Twitter, but I check it.
Right.
So you can reach out with questions and anything. And then on Instagram, Snake Plummer. Nice. And I've gotten active recently on there, and, follow me, message me if you got questions about, wanting to feel better and heal and live a little bit more optimally. And also check out getumbo.com. That's our mushrooms, functional mushrooms for daily supplementation. They're good for you. And don't trust my words. Time for yourself.
Right.